Revolutionary greetings. How are you guys? How are you guys? I'm well this side. I'm well this side, guys. Guys, about a month or 2 months ago, I made a promise that I'll be doing a series in terms of sort of analyzing the manifestos of the different political parties. As you guys may know, that by the 29th of May, South Africa is going to the national and general elections. So different political parties have been launching their manifestos. So I promise that we'll do a series where we would go deep into their manifestos and see what is it that they are promising, what is that the program that they're talking about in terms of addressing lots of issues that we are confronted with as a country. But more specifically, my focus is on land, on the land question, right? So by mere fact that I'm talking about the land, then already it precludes that certain political parties, I won't be doing any series on certain political parties, such as the Democratic Alliance, Action SA, because those are the ones that I consider to be the reactionaries, the political praxis of white monopoly capital, of the status quo. So I'll be focusing on political parties such as the Economic Freedom Fighters, PAC, which is the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, and probably I'll do MK Umkhonto Wesizwe Party as well. So those are the manifestos that I'll be going through, but more specifically on the issue of land. That's the issue I'm going to be focusing on more, the land question. Okay. All right, guys, let's get to it, guys. Let's get to it. Let's see what the EFF is saying about the land. And I'll just throw in my opinions and my understanding of what is it that they're talking about, right? So meaning I'm going to be reading out their manifesto in terms of what is that they are saying regarding the land question. Then I'll be providing some little small analysis in terms of what do I understand about what they're saying. How do I view it, right? All right, guys, let's get to it, right? Okay, number one, on the land question, the Economic Freedom Fighters. By the way, the Economic Freedom Fighters is the third biggest political party in South Africa. Yes, in terms of the elections outcomes, right? Okay, let's get to it, guys. Number one, the EFF government's approach to the resolution of the land question will continue to be anchored on the principle of expropriation of land without compensation, for equal redistribution and use, and for the state to be the custodian of all land in South Africa, right? Number two, the EFF government will reintroduce the motion to amend the constitution to permit expropriation of land without compensation. I think you guys are aware. This thing has been going on for probably 6 years or 7 years, that in Parliament has been this motion for the expropriation of land without compensation. But as to what happened to it, we don't know. That issue just disappeared, it vanished. Remember that there was a time around 2018 where there were public participations that were held in different communities across the country to hear the views of the people regarding the expropriation of land without compensation. And resoundingly, people said yes to expropriation of land without compensation. But as to what happened to the resolution and its implementation, that's the biggest question that we ought to ask. Right, okay, let's go back to what the EFF is saying. Number three, the EFF government will amend Section 25 of the Constitution to read as follows. Right, I could. Because Section 25 is a property clause, right? Okay, I could. Here's what the EFF is saying. After amending the Constitution, Section 25 will read as follows. The state, including Parliament, the executive and the judiciary, carries an obligation to redress imbalances of the past through enactment of laws that will achieve redress and equitably redistribute all resources. Right. 2. Property may be expropriated without compensation. A. Only in terms of law of general application. B. For a public purpose or in the public interest. Right. You see now. It's very explicit, that the amendment that the EFF is talking about. Right, okay. Then we go to remove subsection 3 and replace with 3. The state is the custodian of all South African natural resources, inclusive of land, mineral resources, and water, and relevant legislation should be passed to clearly define and contextualize state custodianship of natural resources. Practically, that's nationalization. Right? That's what the EFF is talking about. But this thing must be there in the Constitution. Right? Okay. 4. For the purpose of this section A, The public interest includes the nation's commitment to land reform and to reforms to bring about equitable access to all South Africa's natural resource, and B, property is not limited to land. Right. Number 5. The state must take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources to foster conditions which enable citizens to gain access to land on equitable basis. All right. 6. A person or community whose tenure of land is legally insecure as a result of past racially discriminatory laws or practices is entitled to the extent provided by an act of parliament either to tenure which is legally secure or to comparable redress. Right. This is what the EF is talking about in terms of the amendments, what they're proposing that they will do. Remove subsection 7. Number 8. No provision of this section may impede the state from taking legislative and other measures to achieve land, water, and related reform in order to redress the results of past racial discrimination, provided that any departure from the provisions of this section is in accordance with the provisions of section 36, subsection 1. Parliament must enact the legislation referred to in subsection 6. Number 4. The EFF government will introduce legislation either through an amendment or either through an amended constitution or within the context of the current constitution to make the state the custodian of all South African land. Right? Meaning no individual now will be owning the land. The land will belong to the state which is the representative of the people, because it's a democratically elected state. That's my emphasis. I'm just adding my emphasis on that one. Okay, let's go back to the manifesto. Number 5, the EFF government will introduce restrictions to foreign land ownership and use rights, targeting specifically the hoarding of land by multinationals and billionaires. Close quote. Here in South Africa, we've got this problem. We've got multinationals and billionaires, who, by the way, are foreigners. And remember this context of foreigners. Here we're talking about the real foreigners, the Europeans, not the Africans who are black like me and you. These are the people who own vast land in this country, but they are foreigners. So the EFF is proposing that there must be restrictions in terms of that ownership. Number 6, the EFF government will introduce limitations in terms of the size of land individuals can have rights to. This will be determined by a solid study of agroecological limits of the various districts in the country, where we ensure that no individual owns this so vast land, only one individual, then the rest they are starving of the land. Number 7, the EFF government will fast track the distribution of land through the land redistribution program and transfer 50% of the land to black people within the first 5 years in government. Oh, those are the lofty targets that if you're talking about. But they say within 5 years of being government, they will have distributed 50% of the land to black people, of which the ANC for 30 years has distributed about how much? It's not even 15%, not even 20% that the ANC has redistributed. Right. Number 8, the EFF government takes cognizance of the difficulties faced by the land restitution program and will do away with land restitution as a mechanism for land reform and have the land reform program anchored mainly by land redistribution instead of restitution. Right? Meaning now changing tack now. Must focus more on redistribution instead of restitution. Right? Yes. Number 9. The EFF government will address urban land poverty by releasing state land and abandoned buildings for housing purposes. Number 10, the EFF government will conduct a thorough land use audit across the country with the purpose of delineating specific pieces of land for specific land use purpose. Number 11, the EFF will declare specific areas as agricultural protected areas in order to protect agricultural land from being converted into land use. 12. The EFF government will regulate the exercise of chiefly power in rural areas in order to ensure that the allocation of land is done in an open and fair manner, specifically geared towards empowering women and the youth. Number 13. The EFF government will clarify the land administration powers of traditional leaders, or of traditional leadership rather, to limit the contestation between traditional leaders and municipalities on land use rights. Number 14. The EFF government will establish a People's Land Court in each of the provincial divisions of the High Court to have exclusive jurisdiction to handle all land-related disputes. 15. The EFF government will establish a land ombudsman who will have powers similar to a Chapter 9 institution mandated to investigate and make rulings on land disputes between the people and the state. Right. Number 16. The EFF government will prioritize women and young people in its allocation of land use rights. Number 17. The EFF government will outlaw the strategic partnership arrangement used for the management of land reform sites, as this benefits white farmers more than resettled black communities. Number 18. The EFF government will provide pre-settlement planning and post-settlement support to each person or community allocated land use rights to ensure that the land allocated is fully utilized for its intended purposes. See, this one is very important because there's no use in giving the land to the people, but then you do not put structures in place in terms of empowering them and ensure that they've got the necessary resources to make use of that land. Right? That's very important. Okay, let's go back to the manifesto. Number 19. The EFF government will introduce land development grants through the land bank, targeting specifically emerging black farmers. Number 20. The EFF government will offer tax rebates to private companies investing in the development of the land for the benefit of emerging black farmers. 21. The EFF government will ensure that South African land is one unitary entity and will repeal constitutional reforms to do away with the so-called right to self-determination entrenched in Section 235 of the Constitution. Right? That's how the EFF sees the land. That's what it's saying, that once they are voted into government, to power, that's what they will do. All right, thank you for the guys. By the way, me doing this is not an endorsement of a certain political party. I'm not endorsing a certain political party when I'm doing this, but I'm more concerned about the well-being of black people. So hence I've handpicked the organizations that, at least in theory, they claim to be for black people. So hence I'm talking about the land, and I've started with the EFF. It's not an endorsement of the EFF in terms of voting, but I'm just giving you an idea. But as you go on the 29th of May, what is it that you must look out for? Because it's high time as black people that we put our interest before everything else now. And the land question is one of those interests. All right. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Please, guys, do subscribe. At the bottom of the video, there's a subscribe button. Please do subscribe. So each time I publish a video, then you are able to be notified, and at least we engage. At the bottom of the video, there's the comment section. Please, let's engage there. Tell me what you think of this program by the EFF in terms of the land. Thank you very much, guys. Mawukhanya. Let's see it.